And now to development in Borno State, where the Joint Security Services have arrested some suspects linked to the recent killing or attack in the Awata community. The State Commissioner of Police, Emeniari Mfai, announced the arrest at the press briefing on Sunday, but did not disclose the identity of this suspect. Now, this comes as locals in the community say they are yet to come to terms with the situation. They say some injured victims in the hospitals are dying daily from wounds sustained during the invasion. While support has continued to come from within and outside the state, the displaced community says they're in dire need of help to overcome the predicament that has befallen them. TVC News Fonam Joshua visited the Yowata community in the aftermath of the attack and has more in this report.
Crying, lamentations, anger, regrets and confusion seems to be the state in which locals and victims of the Yelwata community bandit attacks have found themselves. Friday, June 13th will always be remembered with bitter feelings, as that was the day the community witnessed an attack that killed over 200 people, including women and children, perpetrated by gunmen suspected to be Hada militiamen. Some selected communities in the North Central region have suffered a series of invasions that caused the death of many in recent times. We took a trip to the Yelwata community with the Gideon and Fumi Paramalam Peace Foundation to see the level of havoc brought upon the community. On arrival, we joined the community to mourn and bury one of the survivor victims who later died 1 week after the attack following wounds sustained during the invasion. He left behind a wife and 3 children. A few others also lost their lives in the hospital days after, as they continue to count their losses. Food barns, shops, stores, houses, and grains were burnt to ashes. We were told that corpses are being recovered in the aftermath, and the number of missing persons is yet to be ascertained.
Yelwata, being at the dam, has suffered this attack for a number of years now. But this renewed attack came with another dimension. It's a genocide.
The challenge we have in Benue has to do with existential problem. People who don't want our people to live on their land.
What wickedness, what heartlessness, what man's inhumanity to man that showed itself, the beast of death parading the market square of Yelwata town.
We visited this internally displaced camp hosting over 1,000 IDPs. The Peace Foundation donated some relief items, mostly food and clothing, and a cash donation.
1 week after the invasion of Yelwata community and the killing of over 200 people by gunmen suspected to be Hada militiamen, locals here in the community are looking forward for when the government will arrest and bring to book the perpetrators of this dastardly act. Justice is what they demand. From Joshua, TVC News, Yelwata, Benue State.
And staying on other tragic event, President Bola Tinubu has condemned the recent suicide bombing in Borno, Kano State. He also mourned those who lost their lives and urged security agencies to double their effort in eliminating Boko Haram insurgents. The president condoled with the government and people of Borno State and directed the National Emergency Management Agency to support the survivors. Meanwhile, the president has sympathized with the families of those killed and injured by an explosion in Kano. The explosion at the scrap metal factory affected 15 people, with 5 of them losing their lives. And for more on the attacks across Plateau, Borno, Benue, and Kebbi State, I'm joined on the news this hour by retired U.S. soldier Bish Johnson. It's good to have you join us on the news at this hour. There's been a lot of, blame and counter blames on these continuous attacks that we've seen spreading at this time. And we hear security experts saying that if we do not diagnose what the real issue is here, there may be no solution. But let's start with your own understanding of these killings in this state, especially the most recent one, from a security perspective.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. Look, the problems we are having now have been the same problems that we have been having for decades now. I've had people say it's politically motivated, therefore it is different from what has been happening. No, I disagree vehemently with anybody that holds that notion. It is still the same problem. They may have metamorphosed into another layer because these criminals are smart. You know, they are not dummies. Dummies are not usually effective criminals. You have to be smart to be an effective criminal. So what is happening is that these criminals, as you chase them, they adapt and they devise other means. But if you look at all their modus operandi, it has always been the same thing. Go into the village, kill everyone in the village, ransack the village, and burn down the village. So what is happening is that we have not been able to diagnose.
And for the most recent one in Benue,
we have not been able to.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Yes, or if we have not been able to take the right measures to be able to stop them. So what happens is that things happen, we surge assets, both material and personnel, and they go there, they suppress that problem, they quiet it down, and then everybody withdraws. And then after a week, 2 or months, the same problem repeats itself again, and we keep going in cycle. You know, see, I listened to what the Chief of Defense Staff said, and I have been saying this for decades now. We cannot have security in this country if we continue to leave our borders as porous as they are. Most of the problems that are insecurity problems that has inflicted this country are coming from across our borders. We share borders with very poor and, you know, chaotic countries, disorganized countries. And so they see Nigeria as the United States of America, where they can come in and they make money, and they have, because these killings and kidnappings and banditry has even become a commercial enterprise.
Mr. Johnson, from what you are saying, if I understand what you're saying correctly, this havoc that we are seeing in this state is wreaked by people outside the country through the borders. But we saw the president who ordered army chiefs to fish out the criminals. You've seen some arrests, some of these arrests more recently. But you are aware that this crisis predates this current administration. Do you think we are getting close to, you know, ending this issue now that it's getting that attention?
No, if we say we are getting close to solving this problem, that would be overly optimistic. Okay, maybe with the arrest of the individuals in question that, as you just alluded to right now, hopefully they are the right people and we're able to get robe of intelligence, because that's how we solve this problem. If we make an arrest, a real arrest of the people who perpetrated all these crimes, they will bring them under interrogation and we'll get a trove of intelligence, particularly where they get their arms and who is behind them. You know, but what I don't want to agree is a situation where we use a complete sweep and say that it's politically motivated. And most times when they tell you that problems are politically motivated, if you ask them who is the politician that is motivating this thing, nobody will come out to tell you that this is the politician behind this. Okay, so this slogan of politically motivated is what we say when we don't have solution to a problem. Look, we have to secure our borders. When you're sick, and you're not sure of what is causing your ailment, you're not sure whether it is malaria or you're not sure whether it is hunger or typhoid, you start from the first one, the simplest one, which is hunger. You feed yourself. If after feeding yourself and you're still sick, then you proceed to the next step. Let us eliminate the challenges that are coming into this country from external people, the neighboring countries. Once we eliminate that external influence and impact on this problem, then we will know which other problems are internally originated. Then we cannot tackle those ones that are originated internally. But we cannot be safe at home when we have such a porous border. I listened to the Chief of Defense Staff. I completely agree with everything he said. I have been saying it on this platform and several other platforms that we cannot get an internal security if our borders remains as porous as they are.
And I'm talking about the internal cause of this issue. We've heard the governor also, you know, blame, I'll use that word, blame clerics also as, one of the reasons why this issue is also spreading, the impact of the religious institutions in the state. Let's quickly focus on state policing and how relevant this is in ending this crisis.
Okay. Yes, let me respond to the issue you raised about, what is being said or message that is being passed in our churches and mosques and other religious institutions. I think it's very critical that those who lead in those religious institutions are mindful of some of the things that they say, because they always have these huge followings of citizens that listen to them and adheres to their preachings. So it is very critical that they're working with the government to ensure that people live together in peace and harmony, and they collaborate in any way they can, to achieve unity. Having said that, I have been one of the fiercest proponents of state policing because I believe that it is an aberration for us to be practicing a federal system of government in this country where we ask people to go and govern themselves, and at the same time, we're not allowing the same people to be able to secure themselves. One of the tenets of democracy is that if you ask people to go and govern themselves, those people as well must also be allowed to secure themselves. That's number one. Number two is that this country is massive and is huge. It requires a lot of resources to be able to provide the kind of security that the people of this country needs, to be able to achieve some level of, relative security, because there is nowhere in the world where you have absolute security, but you can achieve relative security, which is security that is sufficient for people to go about their normal businesses. So we need to have the states come in and participate in sharing the burden of securing their own people. And that way, if anything happens in any state, the chief security officer, the real chief security officer, because right now, I don't believe that governors are actually the real chief security officer of their states. I think they're only chief security officers in principle, but in practice, there is only one chief security officer in this country, and that is the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So when we make governors the real chief security officers of their own states, we'll be able to hold them accountable if anything happens within their jurisdiction. But until that happens, we will continue to be walking around in circles. It will take more. The federal government alone cannot finance security of this country. We have to bring in other stakeholders, including the private sector, because security is a general commodity that is enjoyed by everybody in the society. So therefore, everybody has a responsibility to contribute in security, in preserving law and order, providing security in one way or the other.
I agree with you that security is everyone's responsibility, but that's a fine place to leave the conversation for now. Thank you for talking to us. That's a retired U.S. soldier, Bish Johnson, talking to us at this time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.